John Wertz here with Senator Huffines. He is running for the Texas Comptroller's office. And welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
for
great
being here.
great to be here.
Okay. And what I'll do is let me go around the room real quick and kind of introduce everybody that's here, and then we'll kind of get started. Uh, to my right here is Kenneth Ernest, Larry Rogers, Luis Pedraza, Kendra Yamaguchi, Deb Houck. She's kind of observing right now. Bob Bagley, who you met before, and Lana Horde is kind of our camera person extraordinaire. And again, thanks for being here. And if you want to start off, let's say up to 5 minute overview, um, what you're running for, why you're running for this position. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, I'm Don Huffines, and I'm running to be the next Chief Financial Officer for the state of Texas, Comptroller. And most people don't appreciate the position. It's a much more important position than folks realize. It is in charge of all the finances for the state of Texas. And I'm running to bring President Trump's sense of urgency, my business experience to the position. And I'm running to Doge, Texas to root out fraud, waste, and abuse and corruption. So, and it is time to Doge, Texas, as simple as that. And I always say this, if we don't do it now, then when are we going to do it? And if not me, then who? We've only had 3 Republican comptrollers in the history of the state of Texas. That's all. Most people don't realize that. But let me tell you let me just give you a scale of the position and let's talk about that a minute because it'll let you know why it's so important and why I want to do it. I'm doing this for my love of Texas and my love of the taxpayer and to change the narrative of all. So let me just start there and change the narrative in the sense that the money belongs to us, the taxpayers. My money, it's your money. It's not the government's money. When I was down there, I can tell you, no one thought about it. They just don't think that way. They think the money belongs to the government. Well, the government, of course, doesn't make any money. We work our tails off to have our money, and we need to make sure that it's being spent correctly and properly. And the comptroller's office theoretically has eyes and ears on all the money we spend. And let me tell you how much that is. I think I put it down. You might see it. But all funds considered, it's over $500 million a day, 7 days a week, which is $350 to over $400,000 every minute of every day. And that's a lot. It's a lot of money. And so, and also the comptrollers and of course, is a revenue estimator per the Constitution, tells the legislature how much money we're going to have so they can set the budget limits. But it's also the procurement officer for the state. All the state agencies, there's over 200 of them. In other words, it's the purchasing manager for all the state agencies, and they're over $100,000. It has to generally go through the comptroller's office, but also 1,200 political subdivisions, cities, counties, or whatever school districts also use the comptroller's office to buy their stuff. And that means you got eyes and ears and all that, whatever they're buying. It has 3,000 employees. It has close to 20 offices statewide. Of course, it collects all the money, all the tax money. It has its own law firm, essentially. It's got over about 80 attorneys in-house. It has its own law enforcement division in-house. It's an extremely important position. And you could look at it as the OMB in Washington that's elected statewide. The Office of Budget Manager, Russ Vought runs that in Washington. He's really running everything now during the shutdown. But the difference is in Texas, the old cowboys that set our Constitution up were pretty savvy. They let the legislature only meet every other year, which is really smart. But the comptroller is elected by the people. The governor doesn't control the comptroller. The legislature doesn't control the comptroller unless they put guardrails in with legislation. If they're going to pass a law, I've got to follow it. I'm not a legislative position, but I'm also not beholden to them. They can't come into my office and shout at me and tell me what to do. Only the people can do that. I work for the voters. And I did that when I was in the Texas Senate, as you're probably aware. I'm the only elected office holder in the history of the state of Texas, according to Secretary of the Senate, that never took any money from the taxpayers. Not one penny of taxpayer money ever hit my pocket. No per diem reimbursement, travel vouchers, no reimbursements, nothing, no health care, pension, nothing. And I'm going to do the same as Comptroller. I'm never going to let a penny of taxpayer money come in my pocket for any reason, even if it's a reimbursement. And I was careful with the lobby. I made sure I paid my way of whatever the lobby wanted to do. So, uh, and I say that because it was hard to get that done, but it was really important to me when I was in the Senate. And it's very important to me when I'm comptroller because I don't work for the government. I keep saying there's nothing the matter of working for the government, but the government does not hire me. The people hire me. I work for the people and I keep it that way. So, uh, that's just a simple as just a quick explanation. Look, this is a position that I think changing the narrative in Austin is going to ripple across the nation. I really do. That's one reason I've got so many endorsements. I'm going to change the narrative that as a comptroller, I'm focused again on the spending. You know, the legislature can set the budget. They say you need to spend blank dollars on whatever the agency is. But who's checking the agency to make sure they're spending it correctly or spending it prudently or, and properly? And so I've been there in the legislature, and I can tell you I'm not real excited about government auditing government. So it just normally doesn't go real good. So that's my quick synopsis on why I'm running and why I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about turning it, having a new day in Texas because I'm convinced our greatest days are coming.
Good deal. Thank you. Yeah, we know how difficult it would be with the government auditing the government because we're trying to do it from the outside and it's almost impossible. So Kenneth and I are co-chairs on a Doge committee for our Republican Party, and we've been trying since April we to get basically electronic breakdown and everything, so we can assign it off to the 12 different people that we have working it, and it's like pulling teeth right now. So what once you get into that, you probably have an idea of how much waste is there, I would presume. uh, and if so, what is that percent, and what can you and are you going to do about it once you find out certain things that are going on other than say fraud and abuse? That's a legal issue that you can turn over to the attorney general. But as far as waste and whatnot, how do you address that? How do you save us taxpayers money?
Well, an excellent question, John. I appreciate that. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is doge my own office. I have 3,000 employees, and I've got to go through that list and figure out really who's going to be with me, who isn't. Just same thing they're doing in Washington. It's really not a lot of difference. Then look, it's not a legislative position. We all know that, but I can use my office and who I report to, which is the voters, to communicate clearly and loudly that we're wasting money in this division, this area. I can go to the legislator, and all the members and talk to them about it, and mainly talk to the people about it. I think shining a light, a little sunshine goes a long way in doing a lot of healing, and uh, and that's the role of the comptroller. And I look at it that if I don't do it, then really who is going to do it? And so I'll do everything I can to expose the waste and the fraud and the abuse. And I'm going to communicate very clearly to the legislature that we need to return that money back to the taxpayers and hopefully in property tax relief. I've been a champion of that for many years.
Okay. All right. We'll just go around.
Sort of kind of add on, sort of to add on to that question that John gave, and to give you a little background. So we have been trying to doge at least the county government here in Montgomery County and to John's point, haven't had a lot of success in being forthcoming. When you win the comptroller's race, I know that the comptroller doesn't have the power to have the county or any of the ISDs or any of the taxing agencies to be forthcoming in those themselves. I assume that that's something that through the legislature could occur, Don. And I guess the question in that is, you'll have a bully pulpit to maybe shame some folks and also work with some folks within the state legislature. Is that a possibility, and how might that work to require all of these taxing agencies to be accountable to the people, because they're not now? So yeah, I guess what would that look like?
Well, I look at it this way, that I think I have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure the money's being spent properly. If anyone's spending it to government, when I say I'm going to focus on spending, I mean it. And right now we have 550 auditors. We use budget for 650, and they're focused on the revenue side. Historically, the comptroller is always focused on the revenue and collecting the money. I'm going to be more focused on finding out how we spend it. So I'm not saying that I can't go after local political subdivisions. And because I look at it this way, if anybody is why would I keep funding an agency or sending money somewhere if I don't have confidence they're not stealing it? Right? I mean, that makes me an accomplice to the crime. Right? Then we say, okay, by the way, we're investigating these guys, but let's just give them more money. That's not happening. I'm not going to do that. I mean, that's illogical. And and when I was in the legislature, I uncovered, just real quick, I'll tell you a quick story on Dogen and why it's so important we Doge. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. In Dallas County, I found out that group, Dallas County Schools, it had a countywide property tax, and they were on the tax bill, and I started digging into them, and thank you for telling me that. Appreciate it. Anyway, they couldn't answer my financial questions, and 3 years later, I got the Rangers and Texas Rangers involved, and the FBI. 6 people went to prison for stealing millions of dollars, Dallas County taxpayer money, including the sitting mayor pro tem of the city council of Dallas, and he got 7 years. But it was really hard to get that done because I basically had to do it by myself, and I got investigative reporters and stuff like that involved. But the point is, I know what the pushback is, and I know where to look. And I'm the only person that's running for any position in the state of Texas that can say they were dodging before anybody knew what the word was. And I closed the agency down and shut it all down overnight with legislation. So the point I want to make on that is they spent in 1 year what the state of Texas spends in 9 hours. So that gives you why we need to be doing a little bit of Doge. And I was going to tell you, the pushback I got, it was the same thing. Oh no, we don't want to do that. We're not going to answer those questions. Oh, they just would dodge you all. And all I kept saying is, you're making me more and more nervous. And of course it makes you nervous. Everybody should be I'm a business guy. Everybody should get a forensic audit. It's good for everybody to have an audit, right? And why is it you don't want anybody to look at your stuff? Well, there's really probably one reason. Yeah, they don't want anybody to know what they got going. So anyway.
But in private business, right? If you mismanage your money, you go out of business, you go bankrupt. If you're in government and you run out, well, we just need to tax more.
Yes, sir.
All right, Larry.
Okay. Could you give, a lot of people don't know your background in being in the Senate before, and when did you get there? How long were you there? And just touch on that a little bit.
Yes, Larry, thank you for that question. Of 5th generation Texan. Best thing happened to me is my wife, perfect wife of 38 years. She came with me here today. We have 5 grown children. Now we're grandparents 12 times over in 6 years. And I've been to 12 state conventions, I think 10 or 12. I don't even know how many. Last 5 national conventions. And uh, we homeschooled our children throughout their schooling career to make sure they would grow up in a good Christian conservative environment. And they did. And so after they got older, I decided to run for office. And I'm the first candidate to ever knock out an incumbent Republican state senator in a primary. And I did it without a runoff. So I know what it's like to run as an underdog, and I know what it's like to win. In the state Senate from 15 to 19, representing Senate District 16 in Dallas, north half of Dallas County. And, um, so in the Senate, I was always ranked one of the most conservative state senators, top 2 when I was there. And, I got, I got a PhD in politics. What? And in politics and in business. In business, I'm a business guy. And in business, if we have a problem, we find a solution and we monetize that solution. And we have a sense of urgency to get things done. And I really realized that that wasn't the case in Austin. People weren't necessarily interested in solving the problems that affect the state. And they certainly don't have a sense of urgency. Yes, sir.
So in today's world, technology is a big issue. So the way that you could doge somebody is you go across the state and you look at who buys a truck, and this guy paid $50,000 and this guy paid $250,000. There is a lot of electronics. So are you going to try to utilize and maybe this is a bad word, AI and young people? I mean, you're going to have a skateboard guy like they did on TV, but I think technology, especially in the field of AI, although I'm not a big proponent of it, it can be very powerful. And I just wonder if you have a plan for that.
I absolutely do. And I've been in touch with some of the folks in Washington and have good connections up there. And look, I'm a businessman and I know I need to hire people a lot smarter than me. And that's the goal. And we're going to plug AI into it, into every computer we can. We have software systems we got in Austin. They're very old. We have, I'll be in charge of all the payroll systems. There's at least 9 of them, 150,000 credit cards and all, and just it's a massive job. Right. And so absolutely, we're going to use every tool we can in technology to get clarity and transparency in every aspect of where we're going and where our money's going.
What specific measures would you implement to identify and prevent foreign or corrupt entities like those regarding, we got the issues with Islam coming into the state of Texas right now, or China, from influencing Texas fiscal operations or state investments?
Well, I would be able to oversee, and we have a list of bidders, to bid on contracts from the state, and I can oversee it that way, and also on money management would be similar. Uh, I was actually co-author of the Israeli bill, and where you can't BBD bill or BID bill where you can't boycott Israel, to do the funds, and we can't do business with them, and also we can't do business with people that discriminate against the Second Amendment folks and the guns and the manufacturing, and so all of that is in the domain of the Comptroller's office, and I'll be looking at that regularly. And like I said, I might have said it, but I don't need committees. I don't. We've got too many study groups. We got too many groups. We got all these Doge committees. My leadership style is just different, and I'm not criticizing other people that lean on that, but that's not my style. I want to make the decisions, and I'm not creating new committees. I'm not hiding behind a committee. The buck stops on my desk. I'll make the decision. It's simple as that. And if I make the wrong decision, I'm not going to hide from it because I'm going to admit it, learn from it, and we move on. And that's what just common sense. I mean, that's what people want in leadership. You got to have the initiative and you got to own it. And so that's my style.
I know it's near and dear to your heart to talk about getting some property tax relief for Texans. Would you explain how the property value study sometimes pushes the increased compliance at the local level to raise our values to be no more than a variance of 5%? And what can be done about that so that we don't have one more driver to that upward momentum for those values?
Oh, that's a very good question. Thank you. That's the Property Tax Assistant Division of the Comptroller's Office, which is actually a pretty big division, and most people don't recognize that or know that the Comptroller actually has a lot to do with it. A lot to do with it, and so that study's done every other year, and you have to be between 95 and 105% of the deviation. Otherwise, you get scolded. I kept looking, what's the recourse? I kept looking. Well, there's really not, except we have to retrain everybody. So the appraiser, the comptroller actually trains the property tax appraisers. We actually write their manuals for them and help them do that. Here's how I think it could work is I I look at it as the taxpayer is our customer, and the customer is generally right. And so let's work for the taxpayer instead of the government. And so there's more conservative ways that we can train the tax assessors and appraisers of how to appraise property that is just a more conservative approach and not as much for the government. There's different ways. There's like 5 different ways to do it, and I don't have it right here in front of me. But whether it's the cost approach, we look at cost on a 3 or 4 year average instead of a 1 year average. Things like that.
Follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am.
One follow-up question. I've noticed because I've looked at all the vendors that sell the types of software that our appraisal districts buy, and I've noticed some things in common with the way they calculate. Would you be willing to look at the way some of those calculations are done and make recommendations for the vendors that are more fair to taxpayers in the way they write their programming, their algorithms, rather than the ones who seem to write them where you can't ever win? It doesn't matter who you use as a comp. The program's going to pick the higher value no matter what.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
100%. I'll do that.
So I have a long question for it's actually the most I wrote because of the issues with collecting taxes and the appraisal districts and them getting their guidelines from the state, and then knowing your desire to get rid of property tax. I want to see it done away with in 100%, because I mean, we fought part of the Revolutionary War to get away from paying taxes to the king so that we could own our property. And now we just have a different king. It's the government, and we never own our property. And as a senior, the appraisals continue to go up, and it's not just the appraisals that go up, but because the appraisals going up, our insurance goes up. And so I've gone from $800 a month for a house payment to $1,300 a month. My Social Security and my retirement doesn't grow as fast as what my payout is taking place. And there's other ways that we could fund taxes, and we've talked about it before, other than property taxes. And I know there was a big deal, back in our history for having to have you had to have property in order to vote. If you didn't own any property, you couldn't vote. And I'm okay with that, but just don't taxes for it. So they've already answered part of the question that I had, but we I've always felt that the counties got their walking orders from the comptroller's office. The legislature states this is how much money we need to make. This is perception. Legislature says this is how much money we need for the budget. They tell the comptroller's office, and the comptroller's office makes it so, because that's the same thing that happens within our counties. Is that is that true, or is that's just the perception? Because I think that's the way that most of the population looks at it.
Well, I can't answer that definitively if it's true or not because I'm not there, but it won't be true in my administration. I can tell you that. And we've done white papers in the past, and if the Huffines Liberty Foundation, how to phase out the school tax, not property tax in general, and we don't need a new tax. We don't need to increase any tax, and we can keep schools fully funded. And it's simply with fiscal discipline and applying the surpluses or the overcharging that we're doing to our taxpayers today and utilizing that over a long period of time, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is, and we can get the state to fund most of the school tax or all of it. And whatever the legislature comes up with, I'm behind them. As long as it's get helping to reduce the property tax burden.
But again, you want to service and work for the people, and I think the people would like to just get done with it, and figure out another way.
Well, yes, that'd be up to the legislature, if they want to do that, and I'm a firm believer that if that ever happens or that day ever comes, that they need to let the people vote on it. The people need to weigh in on it.
I know a second ago when I asked you questions, it was actually two. And the first one, I'm not sure if I remember, you said, what percent are you expecting there to be waste, fraud, and abuse within the system?
The FBI people I've talked to think that it could be as high as 5% in government.
Pretty significant.
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's 25 million a day.
Yeah.
Even if it's 1%, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But that's what the fraud investigators at the FBI told me.
Okay. And one of the questions was, why do you support or oppose improvement districts and economic development districts? And you said basically it depends on how they're structured and how they work. Even in the best case scenario, in your opinion, how many of these work over the long term, or is it corrupted somehow with tweaking or backdoor deals or whatever?
I think they can work. I really do. I could give you an example that might help answer the question. Um, like in Dallas, we have Turtle Creek Boulevard down the Turtle Creek area. Like have like Memorial, and so and in that area, the business owners, or it could be anywhere really, went together, had an election, voted to tax themselves. Really, it's like an HOA, tax themselves to clean it up, plant flowers, vegetation, to make it all look good, and then they police that with landscaping. The city wouldn't do it, never would do it. And so the values were going down in the area. It wasn't nice, didn't look good. And of course, now it looks great. And everybody that owns the real estate in that area is very happy about it. And it doesn't affect anyone else in the city. So when you have a small area that agrees to be taxed or with a fee, it might not be a tax, it could just be a fee, or something, and it goes directly to benefit everybody on that street or wherever, you're not burdening anyone outside of the designated area. When cities want to improve something and they go spend money, it often is doing something that you will never benefit from. It's something that's 10 miles away, 5 miles away, that really doesn't benefit you directly or your family directly or your neighborhood directly. And so you go, okay, we're going to go spend $15 million on that area. You're paying the debt service on that if it's a bond, but you really aren't getting anything out of it in your neighborhood. So if there is a way to do it, it would need to be small and directed to the people that are paying it and directly benefiting from it.
So, which is always great. You're going to look at the comptroller's office first. I mean, make sure your house is in order before you go somewhere else. That's going to be a daunting task to doge the whole state. Have you got an idea of how do you have a field on of what the low hanging fruit is right now? And maybe where you might want to go? Or are you going to take a shotgun approach? just curious how you're gonna. It's a big task.
Yeah.
So, just curious what would you mind sharing a game plan or kind of how you're gonna pick out which ones first?
Well, there are some things I can share and a lot of things I can't. The motto of my company that has served me very well in business is seeing beyond the obvious. And took that to Austin, and that's why I found the Dallas County school corruption scandal. I mean, they've been stealing money for years. Nobody ever thought about asking simple questions. Like, where's our money? What do you do? It's a simple, what do you really do? You start there. What is it, your purpose? What's the purpose of the legislature created the agency? Do you have mission creep? Are you doing a lot more than you should be? We don't have zero-based budgeting, for instance. So every year you use it and lose it. So government adage, right? You got to spend it before the fiscal year is up, and then they go and they're going to get a 6% increase no matter what, and you're going to get more FTEs, more team members you need. Well, do they really know if the team members are really doing their job to begin with? And right now we have a state auditor, and the state auditor is supposed to be looking at have experience with them. And if they're watching, they're doing their whatever. I don't like government auditing government, especially an agency auditing another agency. I get nervous. It's just simple as that. So I think really to answer your question is that we spend about a little over 70% of our money in education, health and human services. Health and human services is right for doging, but everybody's says federal money. You heard that? Well, we're not going to look at it's all federal, but it's my income tax. That's still our money. And the sales tax is the other part. So we get a lot of taxes, but the answer to your question, well, I'm going to be creative, and I think you're going to be very pleased.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of our questions was if you could fix public education funding, how would you do it and why? The most unbelievable figure that I've seen is that Texas spends over $8 billion a year educating illegal aliens. That is shocking. That alone would be a big, big deal. And thank you for realizing that and are willing to do something about it.
Well, thank you for the question, Larry. I appreciate it. My foundation, we do a lot of work on that, and that's the number we think is the number. Could be more. That Texas has been burned by educating illegals in our government school system since the 1982 pilot case. Very controversial SCOTUS case, 5-4 decision, and no one in Texas has seen fit to relitigate that, which is crazy, particularly with the new courts we got. But as comptroller, I'm going to ask a simple question. How many is it? I mean, how many kids are in the school system that aren't supposed to be here? I'm not saying they don't deserve the education. We might need to get the courts to work on that. But I'm saying we need to know. Let's just do an accounting, ask the question, how many are here? And then we get a more accurate idea, and then I can take that information, go to Washington, D.C., and hopefully get reimbursed, because they're not dealing with this in Maine or Wisconsin or Montana or North Dakota that we've been burdened with for decades. And that's our money, real money, because the federal government wouldn't secure the border. Never have. And so that's one way that I think we need to, we're not talking about doging it monetarily, that's one way we need to have these answers, and that's a real save, and it's huge. I mean, that $8 billion a year is huge. So one thing we can do is ask the questions. And that's how you get answers.
Yeah. And just to follow up, actually, I've submitted several information requests for the school districts to get that count. And every time I've gotten refused. And then I thought I'd be creative and get not, don't tell me who's illegal, but tell me who didn't. Whenever you register for school, you have to have an immunization record. You have to have a series of documents. And so give me the number that you had to make an exception for. And they wouldn't give me that either. So it's a very difficult number to get to. On a local level, I don't know how you do it statewide, but that's not really my question. My question, toll roads. You talked about toll roads a lot. How would you deal with toll roads? That's another tax that we pay.
It is, well, of course, not for toll roads. Um, and I've been endorsed, by toll-free highways, and in the legislature, I filed quite a few bills related to that. And, um, you know, yeah, I filed a bill in Austin to audit toll roads. And we narrowed it down before I had the hearing in transportation. Just a quick story on that, to one toll road agency in the state, because they were all freaked out about it, and that was one in Central Texas Tollway in Austin. And I mean, you just can't believe how they lobbied up. I mean, they lobbied up really big, and I think there were 6 lobbyists that came in there for that hearing, and they just pushed back for a long time during the hearing. The same thing happened to me with Dallas County Schools. They spent $1.3 million on lobbyists to defeat my audit. I won that. So, but I didn't win this one. But the more they pushed back, the more nervous I got. Of course, you just get, why are you pushing back on it? And so I didn't win that because the chairman of the committee wouldn't bring the bill back up. So I'm all for auditing anything like the tollway, the toll road authorities. I'm all for it. Making sure we have great transparency in the billing process. I think they're ripping people off left and right with their bills, and they give you these late fees, and they put it to the license plate. Well, what if somebody's driving your car?
Right.
Or somebody else has got the car, or you don't know, and then you're getting bills and you send them to your old address. Next thing you know, you owe $100,000. And there's so many horror stories about ruins people's lives. It ruins their business. A lot of people have workers out there driving down the highways, and they don't, they're getting flashed. And anyway, I'm starting to preach, but I'm with you. I'm with you. We need some strong guardrails on the toll road authorities. So,
And I don't know what you can do as a controller, but that would be helpful. Whatever you can.
I'll find out when I get there what I can do.
All right, thank you.
I'm not legislative. Keep that in mind.
That's right.
I got that. But,
Yeah, but
you're the controller. You can go audit a lot of stuff.
and I sign the checks.
Even better.
That's a pretty big deal.
Thank you.
Well, I have a different kind of question. So I was pleasantly surprised when I went to the Alamo for the first time and I saw all your historical donations. I'm getting choked up. Sorry. I saw all your historical family, like as though your family just donated these like beautiful historic pieces.
The Alamo. The Texas
Yes,
history.
at the museum. And I just wanted to, I don't know, get a little bit of how you got there. How? I know it's your heart. You love history. So,
I am a history buff, particularly Texas history, and I've collected, our currency from when we were a republic for 30 years, and our bonds and different things like that. But I just over the years picked up a lot of Texas artifacts, um, and there was a big auction up in Cleveland. More than you want to know, but why you would auction Texas artifacts in Ohio? Whatever. So I found out about it, and because here's why: Texas, our heritage is so important because it is our culture. Heritage goes to culture. Culture goes to our virtue and who we are. And we don't want to be like all the other states. We don't want to be like Nebraska or anywhere else. This is Texas. We've got a history that nobody has. Nobody. We don't need to be looking at Washington. We don't need to be looking at Europe. We don't need to be looking anywhere. This is Texas. And we will be the lighthouse of liberty. And we should be the lighthouse of liberty for the whole world. And so I look at that, my heritage collection. Is that, by the way, I think it's the best.
It's amazing.
Okay, I got a quick question. What is the holy grail of Texas history artifacts? What would be the holy grail? You're right. Sam Houston's battle saber.
Yep.
I've got Sam Houston's battle saber.
Wow.
And Santa Anna's battle saber.
Wow.
I've got several artifacts from the San Jacinto battle. And anyway, I've got Santa Anna's full dress uniform. I've got Admiral Moore's 2 full dress uniforms. Last Admiral of the Texas Navy. Anyway, I've got. Thank you.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. So you can see
Thanks
it
for
in the
sharing.
Alamo
Yeah.
collection. It was in the chapel, but they moved it because they're going to take the roof off the chapel. And but I've got Houston's epaulets. I mean the hats. I got a lot of stuff. It's really great. So come see it.
So we got a little less than 15 minutes.
Back to the efficiency question. If my memory serves me, the Don't Mess with Texas trash collection program was an idea of someone in the government through the program that they can submit suggestions for increased efficiency for all agencies over 1,500 employees or something. And at that time, I think that program actually rewarded people with monetary or something to further incentivize to get employees and the administrations of those organizations actually engaged to save money. Is that something that you might bring back or do something like that to make everybody be in that Doge spirit?
Sure, I think it's a great idea. I'm not familiar with that program, but that sounds like a great program. And we do have a whistleblower program, but it's mainly for the federal Medicare fraud program. That's where most of that would go on the whistleblower side. But I'm all for having the carrot instead of the stick. I think that's really important.
You've always been solid on your views. Is there any issue that you have made recently or within your past that you've made a 180-degree turn from where you used to stand? I can give you for instance.
Okay, I'm thinking.
So I've been pro-life for years, and then I decided that rape and incest because of the mental problems for the mother was justified. But then I looked at it closer, and it's still a heartbeat. It's still a baby.
Yep.
It's still God's child, and so it's still murder. And so I changed from that position to the only time that it would be acceptable is for a dire emergency to save the mother's life. So
I can't think of anything offhand. Not like I'm pro-life and conception. That's no exceptions. I always have been and always will be. But I think it's we can talk about that as much as we want. 50 million people in the United States. We should be so grateful God's got mercy on us.
well, and that's just babies. That's not counting veterans that get killed or that are basically killed through medication, and for elderly as well.
Yeah, I was just talking about the portions.
I know.
It's right. I think it's the best thing for our country and the state. And I think the state has got more work on that. Texas Rifle Officer University, of course, has done a great job in making sure we can't get there, trying to stop the medicine, the abortion medicine, all the stuff that you buy on the internet. We've got to save our babies. Period. And we need to support the women that are thinking about it. We need to give them more them moral support. We need to show them there's options. We need to show them that what's the matter with adoption? Adoption's fallen 90%. Texas still has 5,500 kids available for adoption. Nobody knows that. Nobody, and it's a money situation. When I was in the legislature, I tried to fix that. Yeah. But they make money out of it. That agency, right? Yeah. Lawyers. Well, their budget. Health and Human Service budget, they get $25,000 for every kid that the state keeps a year. And so they don't. Anyway.
So basically, so there's been a push here locally and statewide for gambling,
Yes.
even to the point our former county chair, GOP chair, had gotten donations from the gambling lobby. Um, but you're against all gambling. But why? They promise so much.
Well, I can tell you why. The cost of gambling far outweighs any benefit. Everybody says, "Oh, Texas is going to make money." Texas has got plenty of money. The last thing we need is more money. We need to give back the excess money we got to the taxpayer. We don't need any more money. And besides, we'll never have enough. And this isn't a free market decision. This is a food truck for the lot. That's what it is. And they're going to award, if they ever got it, they're going to award a license to the richest guys that have given the most money. They certainly don't need any more money, And there'll be 1 license, 5 license, 8 license, and they'll figure out who's donated the most money to who, and they'll start divvying up those licenses. It's just a bad idea across the board. And Texas is by far the largest state that doesn't have casino gaming, and I hope it never does.
Amen.
Kenneth, we got about 7 minutes.
Okay. More of a general question, Don. So we've got 17 amendments up right now for the Texas Constitution. Just like to know your view on all these, not necessarily any specific one, but this whole process and constantly amending the Texas Constitution. Have you got any thoughts you'd like to share on that?
Well, it's a very detailed constitution, and we've got a lot of amendments, as we all vote on those all the time. We don't have initiative and referendum in the state, so this is kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's as you probably know, it takes 2/3 majority of each house, and the governor doesn't weigh in on it. But it's for me on those issues, it's does it expand government or does it shrink government? And that's what we need to look at. Right? Government never has enough of our money. I always say this. It never will. And the more money government has, the less liberty we're going to have. And we're so preconditioned of what liberty really is. We just are. We're preconditioned to contemporary thought, and our thought in this country has been totally dominated by socialists and Marxists for at least 50 to 70 years, if not 100 years. And so we think, we're making a little progress. Really? I mean, we got a long way to go. Let's just be real. We got a long way to go to really experience liberty. And to totally, I've always harped on this, to experience liberty, you have to have a virtuous society. You have to. Otherwise, and that's, the communists know that's why they took God out of schools. Because you have to have government then step in to control all the unmoral people. Look at one of the most important things we got to do is get Jesus back on the country. We don't have it.
Okay, Senator, if you'd like to take up 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up for you.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me just say this, and I might not take up all 5, but this is a very, very important position. And as I've said previously, it's a position that can change the narrative for the state. And why I've got so many endorsements, and I'm going to walk you through some of those, is because like when Charlie Kirk endorsed me, it's a rare endorsement that Charlie, I've known Charlie, that he would give for a state position. He gave some for the federal positions, but rarely, if ever, for a state position. He hardly ever gave the federal either. But he endorsed me, Charlie Kirk did, because he knew that what I'm going to do in this position will have a halo effect across the nation. It will ripple everywhere, and 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 that's important to help change the USA, not just Texas. But the campaign's going fantastic. Uh, and let me just give you some of those endorsements. But the reason I got these endorsements is, which I've gotten every conservative organization really in the state that's endorsed the campaign, is because they know they can trust me. They know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and they know I'm not for sale. And that's rare. And the thing that the United States and Texans are so thirsty for is somebody with courage and to lead the charge. You have to have initiative, you have to have vision, and you have to have the courage, and you have to be doing it for the right reasons. That's why Ted Cruz is endorsing the campaign. Vivek Ramaswamy came in early. He's the co-creator of Doge of Elon. He's endorsed the campaign. Ron Paul's endorsed the campaign. Riley Gaines has endorsed the campaign. A lot of MAGA. I am the MAGA candidate in this race. I've supported the president 16, 20, 24. I've raised money for him. I've donated money for him and bundled money for him. And been, like I said, I don't know if I've told you guys, been a delegate the last 5 conventions, national conventions, 10, at least 10 or more state conventions. I'm a champion of our party platform. One of the reasons I ran for office to begin with. But I've also got a lot of statewide endorsements. 75% of SRUC has endorsed the campaign. Our national committee men and women have endorsed the campaign. Former vice chairman of the national party, Tommy Hicks, has endorsed the campaign. In your area, Montgomery County, Houston, first Houston area, Mattress Mac is with me, and he is so popular.
He is.
So popular. I just love Mac. He's the greatest. And I've known him for a few years, and he's very excited to help any way he can because he knows what I'm going to do is going to benefit everyone in the state. Let's see, we got Wesley Hunt came in and endorsed the campaign early. He said that he's only endorsed 2 people in his life, Donald Trump and me. This was quite an honor for him to do that. Alex Mueller is endorsed the campaign. Steve Toth's endorsed the campaign. A lot of your local folks have endorsed the campaign, but in statewide, I can't go through all the organizations. I'm going to leave a lot out, but Texas Right to Life, Grassroots of America, Joanne Fleming's group, Texas Eagle Forum, Gun Owners of America, Moms for America. So there's many, many more, and I encourage you to look on the website or the handouts that I've got to pass out because and look, my competition in this race have never endorsed the president. Never officially endorsed him, even after he won the nomination. The only thing I could say is they obviously didn't like him and still don't like him. Now that they're running for comptroller, oh, we think Trump's the greatest guy in the world. Well, whatever for the last 12 years, where were they? They weren't with the president, I can guarantee you that. And I'm excited to emulate what Trump did in Washington, is doing in Washington and in Austin. And I'm committed to making sure that Texas is the lighthouse of liberty for the world, not just for the U.S. Because we know if we lose Texas, we lose the free world, not just the U.S. And so I'm the taxpayer champion. I'm here for the taxpayer, and I've got the receipts to prove that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering our questionnaire and for coming in today. So good luck in your campaign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody knows we're in election.